Okay. Hi guys. Welcome back everyone. Welcome back everyone, I say. Um to a paper 2 session. I've said this before, but I've done a paper 1 session that you can find linked um in the channel. Um but this is just going to be a paper 2 focus question session. If you've got questions, please put them in chat as I'm going along because I will answer them as I'm going along. Um And I mean, I'm basically just gonna talk through paper 2 and what I think we can do for paper, what you can do to make your paper twos better. Yes. Um, okay. So obviously we're gonna run through all of this. Some general reminders. Both higher level and standard level students have the same exact paper, and also both language and literature students have the same exact paper, just in case there are some literature students in here. A lot of this advice will still apply to you, because I know we don't have lit hosts this year, so yeah, hopefully this helps. Both higher level, standard level, literature, lang, and lit, everyone gets an hour and 45 minutes to write a paper 2 based on 1 out of 4 prompts. Each paper 2 will have 4 prompts. You get to pick one, and they're essentially centered around themes in literature, basically. Both standard level, higher level, everyone gets 5 minutes at the beginning of their exam to read their text without writing anything. And this is the reading time, which is really important. And I will talk through why that's really important in a bit. So, some of the reminders. Paper 2 is a compare and a contrast essay. So you have to compare and contrast at the same time. It's not just one or the other. You don't just want to find the similarities or just the differences, which, okay, compare and contrast. Compare means what is similar, and contrast means what is different. Um, because I know compare can technically mean a lot of things, but in the context of your paper 2, compare means to find the similarities, and contrast is to find the differences between your two works based on the prompts that are given. I said this in my paper 1 session, but Peel is a really good way to organize your paragraphs. So you've got point, example, explanation, link, which is the 4 main um, parts of what a paragraph should contain. Other formats are completely fine. I know people use like petal, sepal, and there's like a bunch of other like acronyms for it, but you can use whatever you want as long as it works for you. And the main point of something like this is to make sure that each of your paragraphs is actually doing what you want it to do, which is to figure out, like, to answer the question. Okay, I saw someone in the chat being like, is anyone talking? If you can't hear me, I need to type this. They're not going to hear me. Okay. Um, the third point is specific quotes aren't necessary to memorize. Now, this is a bit of a controversial one, but I stand by this all the time. People will say, oh, if you don't have like direct quotes from the work, it's not really going to be a good paper too. I would like to disagree because I think you can, as long as you know your works really well, but don't like have the ability to be able to like memorize word for word what the quote says, you can, like, as long as you can describe what's happening in the scene, unless obviously you want to analyze like the language or the diction, if you can describe what's happening in a scene or in the panel, if you're using a graphic novel, or in that section of the work, if you're talking about poems, for example, as long as you can describe it, you can still analyze it. Um, this again does not apply if you're talking about very specific literary devices, if you're talking about very specific um, diction, if you're talking about very specific literary devices that are focused on the word use. In that case, obviously, you want to mention what that word is, and so you need to know it. But overall, you don't need to be like this quote bank in your head where you're like, oh, I know like 20 quotes from this one piece of work because I don't know which one I'm going to be able to use. Um, if you can do that, great, all power to you. If you can do that and it works for you, go ahead. But like, you shouldn't spend an overly like large amount of time trying to memorize a bunch of quotes if you're not going to be able to use them effectively and just for the sake of memorizing them is the point of that point. Okay. And the last thing is to make sure to provide adequate evidence for any point. Now, this obviously, one of the pieces of evidence could be a quote, but the evidence could also simply be a description, could simply be like an explanation of what's happening in the scene, could be um, so if you're talking about character flaws, for example, it could be a description of the characters itself. Um, yeah, but you still want to, even though you don't need to memorize specific quotes for it, you do want to provide adequate evidence for every single point that you've got. Um, and I'm trying to think. I say this for paper ones as well, but like your analysis is only as effective as you are able to point out where it's being used. Um, until you've got evidence, you saying that this literary device is being used is not if an effective or persuasive analysis. And then we're going to talk about outlining. Now, a lot of this is going to be very similar to what my paper one advice was. It's just a little bit different in terms of obviously there's no work for you to analyze or outline here. But you want to outline your essay anyway. So once you're given your, not your text, your prompts, you've got four prompts to choose from, um, and you've got 5 minutes to read through these. You're obviously not allowed to write during this point, but you've got time to read through each of the prompts, decide which one you want to use, and decide what works you want to use. Um, Even after your 5 minutes reading time is over, you can still take another 5, 10 minutes to read and plan and decide. I wouldn't recommend anything more than 10 minutes for obvious reasons. It is a time crunch. You do want to write as much as you possibly can. Um, but do take like if you think you're not 100% sure what you're writing, like take 10 minutes at the beginning. Will you lose out on marks if you misremember a quote? Depends how far this misremembering is going. Like, if you're completely off, then I don't think you'll lose out on marks. They'll just be a bit confused. But if you like misremember a specific word, then you should be fine. What about HL 10 minutes each checks? This is paper two, so it doesn't like there's no difference. In paper one, it's different, but like this is paper two, so it doesn't matter if you're HL or SL. I would say take 10 minutes just overall for your outline of your essay. Um, yeah, I think immediately starting on the essay has got quite a few drawbacks because like you've got um like the not everyone has the ability to like straight up start writing like an intro and like just like be able to like write an entire essay in an hour 45 without doing any planning and having any like logic to like see where their essay is going and have some organization to their essay. Um, and so that's why like using those 5, 10 minutes is important, just so you know what arguments you're making throughout your essay. As you read the questions and choose your question, you want to spot what the keyword is, decide on what your works are, and make decisions of what the evidence it is you want to include. You want to, so like I'm trying to think of a example question, but like there will always be a certain at least one or two keywords in the essay question that you want to focus your essay around, and you want to talk about the theme surrounding that keyword in your essay. So that can be something along the lines of, I think one of the questions a few years back was like poverty is reflected in two works you've seen, explain, blah blah blah, whatever. So if poverty is your um keyword there, you can break that down into whatever you want in order for it to fit your works. So you can break down poverty in terms of like actual poverty, you can break down poverty in terms of um like like a like a negligence, you can break down poverty in terms of a lack of other things, like poverty of not just money or wealth, but poverty of a number of other things. You can reframe, and I know this was a conversation that people were having in the chat the other day, which is why I'm bringing this up now. But you can, to a wide extent, reframe what the question is asking you based on what your works are, um, which is quite important, obviously, because not ev like they will use very generalized keywords on purpose because they need to fit like a huge wide of words. Um, Someone in the chat has said that their teacher has uploaded a sample essay to use as a blueprint. Personally, I don't think that would ever work because what they're asking of you, like what the question they ask will change how you answer it. And so I don't know how you can reframe a sample essay for it to work, but I hope whatever I talk about today will help a little bit, I guess. Okay, so someone might have suggested memorizing an entire P2 paper 2 essay, and if that works for them, sure, I guess. But like I would I really would not recommend it because I don't think you're like realistically if you memorize and regurgitate an essay that you've done before, like I think the max you'd get is like a 4 or a 5, which even a 5 is a stretch, but like a 4 is like where I would put an essay. As long as it's a good essay, um, that's where I would put it. But that's just, yeah, whatever. I wouldn't, yeah, I wouldn't concern, I would not regurgitate an essay, is the point there. Anyway, so the regarding the outline. So this is just some of the stuff that you can identify in your outline. Obviously, you can do a lot more, but this is like some of the stuff that I did while I was doing my paper twos. Obviously, you see your question, you write down and highlight what your keyword is. You want to highlight what your main interpretation of that question is. You want to see like what your interpretation of the keyword in that question is. So, like I said, if I took the poverty example, then you want to break down what the definition of poverty is in the context of your essay. If what is the like what you're going to talk about, what are the points you want to talk about, what are the sub themes you want to talk about, um, and then a few other things would be context to the two works that you're talking about. Um, just like something basic as um, The Crucible by Arthur Miller is a play written in the, I don't even remember when, about blah. That's it, just one statement. Um, and then the other one, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, is a gothic piece of novel, blah, blah, blah. Just like one sentence that summarizes the context, just so they know what works you want to talk about. You also obviously want to think about what devices you want to tackle, what devices you want to talk about throughout your essay. And this is where a bit of a divergence comes in terms of how you want to organize your essay and how you want to structure your essay, which I will talk about more in a second. Um, but and then in your body paragraphs, you want to do both comparing and contrasting. So you want to compare how how the two works do something similarly, and then two works differently. The same two works do something else or the same thing differently. Um, and obviously, these need to include devices, need to link back to your thesis statement to, yeah. Before I go into text types, I'm going to talk a little bit about, hold on, I need to actually double check if, before I go through any of this. No, because I don't have a slide on it, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. So I'm going to talk about structure. There are, I would say, two main ways you can organize a paper two essay. There are probably other ways as well, but these are just the two that I've gotten questions about, and so I can answer about two of them. Um, the first one is an organization based on conventions and based on devices. So this is an organization where each of your paragraphs deals with or focuses on a specific aspect of the genre and then talks about how different themes can be shown through that convention in your like in the context of that keyword. The other is a theme-based essay where each of your paragraphs focuses on a sub-theme within that keyword, and then you use different devices in the two different works to analyze how that's done. In my experience, I've always organized my essay based on themes, not based on authorial choices or based on conventions. Um, because that's always worked well for me personally. I think it also works better for a paper two because of the fact that it is a compare and contrast essay based on two works, and your two works can be very different, um, like from two very different genres. And so when you try and make an essay that's focused around um, conventions, you're going to miss out on like it's hard to do that when you've got two works of very different genres. It's very easy to focus around themes and then talk about how the genres make the difference, and that's how the contrast comes in. Does that make sense to people? What if the research question, whatever the the question was an authorial choice? I don't remember if I've seen many questions about that. Okay, oh no, actually I have. That's a lie. So you can still like one of the ones I've seen is like setting is really important in works of literature. How is this shown in two works that you've seen? I think in that way, you can split setting up into different things. So one can be like setting in like in the way that it means, like setting as an authorial choice, so where the characters are set. You can talk about setting in terms of context in the real world. You can talk about setting in terms of like um the time period. You can talk about um I'm trying to think what else you can do. But like you want to try and break down a authorial choice into like more thematic and more conceptual abstract ones rather than just like individual, like just as the conventions or as the literary device. Um, I don't think you should describe the author because you are trying to take away from like the context of the author doesn't matter as much as the context of the work itself. You want to look at the work in its own like isolation rather than the wider context of the author, unless it particularly matters to the work. And so there's no point in doing that unless you want to bring it in for a specific analysis. Um, Take themes and then use authorial choices to portray how the author used these techniques to show the theme. Yeah, that's my personal um, way of doing it. Two body paragraphs each discusses the sub-theme, but in the paragraph I follow the following formula that is attached to this message. But if you've got two body paragraphs, then you should add some more stakes and make it nuanced and strike my reader as much as possible. If so, can I do less so if I have three body paragraphs? Okay, that was a very confusing question, sorry. So you make a comparative claim, text A evidence, text A analysis, text A effect on meaning, comparative pivot, text B evidence, text B analysis, text B effect on meaning, synthesizing close. That's a quite good structure. No, it's okay, don't worry. That's a quite good structure for a paragraph. I'm pretty sure I've probably done similar in my essays before. Um, I think the only caveat there would be just make sure that you're not like writing like massive, massive paragraphs. Like you still want to split that a little bit just so you're not um like just talking about a lot in like one paragraph and like your paragraph isn't like 2 pages. You can still do it in 2 paragraphs, like that can still work as long as you're like um good at like actually analyzing. You also want to um talk about them in synthesis a little bit. Like you don't want it to be 2 essays basically. You don't want it to like be like, okay, I'm talking about text one here, text two here, text one here, text two here, text one here, text two here. Like you don't want it to be like you don't want it to be an essay where you've got a paragraph on text one, a paragraph on text two, and if you tried and separated those paragraphs, then you could have 2 essays. You don't want that to be your essay. You want to make sure that you're interlacing and talking about both of them in tandem. But otherwise, that's still a good structure. Okay, there's a bunch of questions. I'm trying to go through them. How many themes are recommended? I think most of the time, three is usually the number that like works in terms of how much time we've got. But I think if you do two, that's not too bad either, as long as you're writing your, it's quality over quantity, basically. I've never done anything with running in the family or broken April. I'm so sorry. I wish I could help with that, but I really can't. I can say what the works I've done in a second. And then if people want to ask me questions about those works, we can do that at the end. Um, how many quotes do you need to memorize? So I've already talked about this, but to me, um, you one don't necessarily need to memorize quotes. Even if you do memorize them, um, I hate giving like a prescriptive number of like you need to have exactly this number of quotes and you'll get a seven because I don't think that works personally. Um, because you can memorize like 20 quotes, but then if you can't use them effectively in your essay, then there's no point. Um, okay, do the characters' personality development themselves count as a literary devices instead of naming stuff like symbolism metaphors? Yes, I mean, yeah, it's characterization in a way. As long as you can explain like that's an active choice that like the authors made for that character in order to for it to serve a specific arc, like yeah, it works well with characterization overall. Yeah, what Omelette said, like that's yeah, like she explains it well. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about text types, and this is going to be a little bit of like just a bunch of like conventions that you can maybe talk about when you're talking about essays, and there's like very basic. So first thing is prose. So prose is basically obviously any written work that is like long written work. So short stories, uh, an essay, book, basically. For the purposes of your paper too, it's basically short stories and a book. Um, and the conventions that you can talk about in the context of prose is setting, plot, and characterization. And these are like the three main like big conventions. Obviously, this doesn't include anything um, like literary devices, doesn't include like more of the nitty-gritty stuff. It's just like overall conventions of the genre in general. Um, which is yeah. So okay, I've got 2 questions. I see. IB English guys is good, yes. And effective comparison is basically what Omelette said, but you want to like uh do state a point where they show the same theme, for example. So this is in the context of a theme-based essay where each paragraph is talking about a specific sub theme. So you can say, author A and author B both show the theme of love through familial love through their works, um, blank and blank. This is done in work A through analysis, in work B through analysis. And so that's a comparative, but also you're contrasting by how they're doing it differently. That's, yeah, I guess that's a good summary. Um, okay, I'm gonna read out everything Lily sent because I think most of this is really good. Um, don't talk about characters as if they're living and have their own choices or thoughts. It's all author choices. Yes, absolutely. It's all connected to the author. Yes, always everything and anything in your English papers, regardless of if it's paper one or paper two, is linked, is a link from um, between the author and the audience or the reader. The work and the characters are just tools in order to create that link, if that helps people like try and think of it that way. So anytime you're talking about anything, it's always the author is doing this in order to um, show the reader this. Um, Authorial choices and techniques do not retell the events. Yeah, you don't have to like explain what the plot of the book is, but if you want to like you want to focus on what the author is doing by telling that story. You don't want to describe that story word for word. Um, Use braided analysis point by point. I think that is about like making sure that you're working with both of the works in tandem and not separately. No details or stories about the work. Um, oh, well, if this means in terms of the wider context and um, about like the author's life, then yes. Um, do not forget to compare and contrast. Yes, authorial choice to context to conflict with justification from the text. Yeah, I think I agree with that. And characterization. That should, yes, that's a great no, just characterization. I agree with that. Um uh if it's fine if you don't it's fine if you don't use exact quotes, but you can just describe what's happening. Yes. It draws a line between saying both of these texts show forbidden love between a foreigner and a local, versus saying both texts use this technique, but the other uses a different technique to both show the idea of forbidden love through a foreigner and a local relationship. Um, so if you say basically a way to say that would be both these texts show forbidden love between a foreigner and a local. Text A does it through this technique, while text B does it through this technique. Does that make sense? Do you need a thesis for P2, even if it's a theme-based one? You need a thesis for all papers, yes. Please do a thesis statement. I beg, please. Um, haven't really understood the structure and how we can link it to the question. I will explain that in a second, if that helps for you. Um, is the thesis statement not what answers the chosen research? Yes, it is. That's why I write a thesis statement, please. So your thesis statement is basically something along the lines of both author A and author B show insert keyword in their works through um, insert devices or insert their genres. Yeah. Okay. Um, Honestly, if you want to look through the conventions of all of this, you can do that in your own time. I don't know if I should go through it because I think people have more questions about structuring, and so I'm just gonna skip everything and go straight through to the structuring. Um, in order to do this, I'm going to pull up one of my previous, not that my essays are like the blueprint, but that's the main example I've got. So I'm going to pull up one of like the essays that I think I did well in order to work through. Um, I love this from Omelette, by the way. The how to write a thesis statement. I agree with this. Okay, let me see if I can switch my stream. What do I think went wrong in my finals versus my school exams? I think by the time I got to my finals, I just stopped giving as much of a shit, which is not great. But that just meant I put in a lot less effort into my finals than I did for like my other exams. But I would not recommend following in my footsteps for that, for obvious reasons. Okay, let me just make sure that I'm switching over on everything. Okay, can you guys see my essay? Lovely. Okay. Oh, someone asked, would you recommend, considering you've got 3 days left, thoroughly doing two books or doing three books less deeply? I would say, as long as you know your third one roughly, then I would do two out of three. This is 26 out of 30. This is the old paper two structure. I know your paper two breakdown has changed a little bit, but this is based on like the old one because I was May 2024. So this is a 26 out of 30. Um, not out of 40. Are you guys' third now out of 30, 25 or out of 35? Out of 25 now. Right, sorry. Because so everything's become five and B has split. Is that right? Yeah, okay, cool. So I do, yeah. Because I was not following the divisions, guys, I'm sorry. But it is, yeah. So it's out of 25. Okay, I'm gonna pull up the criteria because apparently people don't know that. Hold on. English, Lang, and Lit. Paper two criteria. What's the new one though? I'm trying to find. Does anyone have? Oh, there we go. Omelette is the Lord and Savior. Um, so your criteria A is knowledge, understanding, and interpretation. It's always that. Criteria B1 is analysis and evaluation, and B2 is comparative analysis. And so basically, what this is effectively doing is giving you the opportunity, even if you don't do really well in being able to like compare and contrast, you will still do really well as long as you are analyzing individual works really well. Um, how much have you missed? We're just now going through like structure and how to do a paper two because more people were worried about that rather than like any of like the content stuff I had to say. So I've just skipped through like all the like convention stuff, which you can do in your own time, obviously. Um, so I'm gonna reiterate for because I know a lot of people have rejoined or new people have joined. In my experience, there are two main forms of structuring your paper two. The first form of structuring your paper two is what I call the convention-based or technique-based structure. In that structure, each of your paragraphs is centered around the conventions of the genre, and you are focusing on the conventions of like literary techniques in order to analyze how two authors use the same technique to show two different that Charles Leclerc made me laugh, sorry. um to I've completely lost my train of thought. How they use the same convention or the same technique to show two different sub-themes under the same keyword. For example, a theme-based essay, which is the other kind of essay you can write, is one where each of your paragraphs is centered around a sub-theme um, of the keyword that is in the essay question. The approach to a theme-based essay is basically where you're saying that these two authors show this one particular theme through two techniques or two conventions or two genres. I don't think it's different for literature. I think language and literature have the same exact paper too, so I think all of it should be 35. 25, sorry. If you want me to write down like, okay, wait, let me see if I can pull up a whiteboard. Freeformed. Hold on, hold on. I will try my best. Although I don't know how my writing on screen is gonna come off, but we will try. Where is okay, okay. Can you see this? Where is a pen? Can I get a pen? Everything other than a pen is appearing. Why is it like this? Okay, you know what? Fine. So there is this thing called a convention-based essay, where you can basically go, oh, wait, actually, I need to switch over on OBS too because everyone who's trying to watch this recording is going to be very confused as to what we're talking about. Okay, where basically you can organize around specific conventions and techniques of the genre. Okay? And so that means each of your body paragraphs will have to do with how two authors use the same, okay, I'm going to highlight this, convention slash technique to portray different themes. The other one is a theme-based essay where you focus around sub-themes of the keyword in your question. And that means that, okay, I need to move this further down. Sorry, it's just moving up. Okay, how two authors use the same, oh, no, sorry, portray the same theme using different conventions, techniques. Does that help? Okay, so in order to see the difference, the question is okay. So paper to I feel like I need to like articulate with my hands now. Paper twos are compares and contrast essays. Yes? Yes. Yes? Cool. Now, these two approaches basically change which part you're comparing and which part you're contrasting. The first one, you're comparing, aka finding the similarities in the conventions and finding the contrast or the difference in the themes. In the second approach, you're finding the comparison or the similarities in the themes, but the contrast or the differences in your conventions or your techniques. Does that help break it down more? Yes. Is it okay if they portray the same emotion but then diverge differently or end up differently for each character? Yes, that's also a way you can say they're contrasting. That's also a good one. Can you write an essay based on development? So it would be one theme throughout. Technically, you can, but each of your paragraphs would have to be about a different aspect of development. Like you want to talk about different things throughout your paragraphs because you want to like move forward your essay. You can't repeat the same theme. Does that make sense? Um, okay. For English paper two for IB English A literature, if you use a text and then use a quote from one of his stories that was translated by someone else, is that like really bad? I don't think so. If it's a translated work, it's a translated work. I think you're okay. I think you should be fine. The rubric for CC says compares or contrasts. This we can do one, but I don't trust your teacher's statement. I don't actually know what okay. I will be very honest. I don't know what the new rubric exactly says, but I think originally it was always meant to be a compare and contrast essay. And if you do only one, I think they're going to look upon that not well. Do the IB send your papers to examiners who are aware of your text? It's random. It's random. There's no expectation that your examiner will know which text will have read which text you're talking about. You can do either now. You don't need to know both. Okay. I am not a verified source as to whether or not you need to do both compare and contrast. I personally would just do both to stay safe. But again, it's you guys are a little bit of guinea pigs, unfortunately, in this situation, and so I leave it up to your discretion. Um, can you make up quotes? Can you? Yes. Should you? Probably not. You don't want to take the chance of your examiner being like an expert in your work. You know what I mean? Like imagine your work gets sent to your own teacher. Like not that it can be because your teacher can't be an examiner. But like imagine that your work gets sent to a teacher who literally taught that work to their class literally like 6 million weeks ago. Like imagine. Like you don't want that to happen. Guinea, yes, guinea. How omelette spelled is how you spell guinea pig. For I will spell it on the screen just for the fun of it. Guinea. I also don't know how to spell guinea pig, apparently. Guinea pig. There we go. Nice one. What if my IB papers are too good it makes the examiner cry? Luckily, they are virtual, so they can cry and it won't affect your paper. How about that? Why are May 2026 guinea pigs? You've got new criteria structure, unfortunately, which means it changes how they like. No, honestly, I think it's a benefit to you guys because the way they've split up the analysis points basically means yes, the new there you go. I will the new see, now there's an okay. So now it doesn't say or, it says and or. It says and or. So you can do one or you can do both. I personally would say do both. You know why? Because if you do only similarities or only differences, you might not have that substantial of an essay. Personally, this is my opinion. Just making it clear, this is my personal opinion that if you don't do both, you might not have a substantial essay. Now, whether or not you want to take that opinion and use it is up to you. I will, yes, that's all I'm gonna say. Just like to clarify my opinion. Yes, you can ask for other people's notes. That's fine. Can you just do one work? No, that's not the thing we were talking about. You have to do two works. It's just whether or not you do similarities or differences or both. You can't you can't do just one work. I wish. I wish. I'm trying to see if I can. Oh, there we go. Okay, nice. Can I twist this? Is the question. No, I cannot. Apparently. Why can I not rotate this? Why, guys? I'm trying to like rotate a whole thing. Gmobop. I'm literally, hold on. I will fix this. Okay, there's full conversations going on in the chat. I'm gonna let that happen while I try and. Okay. Um, nice. Okay, beautiful. Now if I just delete this. Beautiful. There we go. Okay. These are the new criteria. That's what I was trying to do. Oh, wait. Thanks, guys. You guys are amazing, actually, in the chat. Okay, let me change that. Yes. These are your new criteria, and this is, hold on. This is the criteria breakdown for B2, which is where the and or comparison comes in. All of this to say, all of this to say, um, this is the change. Before it used to, criterion B just used to be, well, okay, criterion A used to be 10, criterion B used to be 10 as well. Um, Now criterion A has been reduced to 5, and criterion B is now um, 5 and 5. Guys, you know what I'm trying to say. Just like, forgive the misspeakings. Anyway, um, yeah, so criterion B is broken down into B1 and B2, which are each 5 points. What this does for you is to basically award, even if you do really good analysis, it will award you well. And if you don't do great in your comparative analysis, it won't punish you nearly as much because it will only be out of 5 instead of out of 10. Um, and the other point of contention was whether or not you should do compare and contrast, or you should only do one. Now, according to the criteria, you can technically do only one. In my opinion, and consider that my opinion is in all caps, in my opinion, if you do only one, there is a chance that your essay does not have enough, like, it's not substantial enough to be an essay on its own. But my opinion, in my opinion, that you I think you should do both. If you want to do one, good luck to you, my friend. Yeah, I know, right? I think it's my opinion. Should I say it a couple more times? It's my opinion. Yes, exactly. It's my opinion. Anyway, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna shut up, guys. This is crazy. Um, Opinion is fine. No, it's my opinion. It's my opinion, guys. I'm like that meme that's like, that's my opinion. Okay, I need to calm down. This is this is fully devolving. We're all going insane. It's also my exam season in like law school right now, and I'm like losing it a little bit, if you can tell. Yay. me, me and my TOKS, it's my opinion. Yes, real. This is like peak exam season behavior. We're all losing it a little bit. Okay. Someone genuinely was asking a question, and I think I fully like glazed over the way of me saying it's my opinion. Okay, can I do a plan for the prompt example this? Sure, sure. This is okay. This highly depends on my ability to remember my works. Okay, which actually people were asking if people have done certain works, so I can say what works I've done, and then if you've got questions, that's not what I was trying to copy. If you've got questions regarding those, then I can probably help. So I did in my time did The Crucible by Arthur Miller, which is a play, Doubt by John Patrick something Shanley, which is also a play. I did Mouse One, so I didn't do the complete Mouse. I did Mouse One. I did um the Bloody Chamber and uh associated short stories. I did Sylvia Plath as our poem anthology. Uh, and what else did I do that I'm forgetting that someone else mentioned earlier? Oh, I did Frankenstein. Um, which I don't think I used Frankenstein for anything, but yeah. Anyway, so that was that. Those are I think my six works. So if you've got questions regarding that, I can probably find notes somewhere that have something about it. Yeah, this session, this entire chaos of a session is being recorded. So if you need to leave, feel free, don't worry. It's always so funny because I never actually record like Discord, so I can never like the chat is never recorded, and so I just look insane because it's just me speaking. The recordings are always, in my opinion, yes, it's okay if you leave. Um, you think I am insane? Yes, yes, yes. It is being recorded. I will send it. Yes. Can I give a percentage chance that we get something on identity? I don't like to take that chance. Yeah, genuinely. Oh no, you're literally like you're in the speakers. You're just not speaking. I look insane right now. Saralo, shout out, bro. I feel like a Twitch streamer now. Is this what's happening? See, I've been told at these sessions that like I apparently give like I would be a good podcaster, which I don't know where how that's coming. Yes, Miami GP, bro. Anyway, we're not going to talk about F1. We're not going to talk about F1. We're not going to talk about it. Okay. Is someone else is 10 quotes enough for paper two? Again, let's not quantify because that's hard to do. Yeah, I all my sessions are insane. To be fair, this is probably the least insane. The most insane was I think May 2025 when I did like a 3.5 hour session on paper one and paper like on paper one and a 3.5 hour session on paper two. That is when I was actually fully going insane. Yeah. Okay. Second of the four guiding question and the paper two offers, like the talk of the time or setting of the novels. Which four questions are you talking about? I'm very lost. Anyway, my teacher said at least one question will have a key concept in it, like identity, culture, communication. I do agree with that. That I can, yes. I think there will be at least one. Is it okay if we don't have quotes? Yes, I believe so. What if you send your examiner some prime olive oil straight from your olive trees in your farm in Tuscany? I think if you have a farm in Tuscany, I think you're in the wrong profession, my friend. I don't think you should be an IB. If you've got a farm in Tuscany, enjoy that farm. Why are you here? Why are you here? Enjoy that farm in Tuscany. Actually, if you send me some prime olive oil straight from Tuscany, I'm I'm yeah. Anyway, okay. I'm gonna stop getting distracted and do what Leanna was asking me to do, which is write a, a, outline on this. Um, I'm going to try. The problem is I don't know how well I remember my text, and so some of this is not going to be great. But we're gonna work through this. Um, but is that good? Um, okay. So the question is asking, discuss how the writers of two works that you have studied, um, I, where the sorry, I just completely lost the screen on my thing. Anyway, discuss how the writers of two works you have studied depict social tensions. Now, social tensions can mean a lot of things. Um, I'm just going to write social tensions, which this is technically our keyword in this, right? So there's many things that social tensions can mean. Uh, there's, hold on, okay. The first thing is probably gonna be, I'm trying to think. Can be power dynamic, and this can be between. Okay, and I'm obviously only coming up with this in terms of my works. So, okay, we're gonna okay. The Crucible by Arthur Miller and Doubt by John Patrick. I think his middle name is Patrick Shanley. Okay, that's my two works. The first one is about is basically about the Salem witch trials, but it's actually a commentary on the Red Scare in the US, just for some context, just so people can understand a little bit. Um, and Doubt is about like abuse in a Catholic, like religious school. That's the best way I can describe that, basically. Um, but yeah, so this is weird. Anyway, so power dynamic, and that can be within systems of education. That can be in systems of religion. That can be in, yeah, I think that's the two ones I want to talk about because those are like part of my two works. Okay. So if that's the thing, power dynamics is one of them. The other can be socioeconomic. There can be like tensions between many things. Based on my two works, I would talk about the power dynamic, or not even the power dynamic. Power dynamic is one thing, but I would talk about the social tension between education versus religion and how that's shown in my two works. Now, if I wanted to talk about that, so I could talk about power dynamics as one of my things. I can talk about education as a weapon against religion. I can talk about um trying to think what else was in the plays. Uh I can talk about generally the relationship between education and religion. And so um power dynamics are in both. There are I'm trying to think. Uh you can talk about religion as a form of education. I'm just trying to think about what my work said. Um So, for example, if you ignore all of that, my essay could be a thing about. So, my intro, for example, would be education and religion are widely prevalent. That I can't spell. Prevalent institutions in the real world. That can be like my hook, right? And then I talk a little bit more about education, talk a little bit more about religion in the crucible. Arthur Miller in The Crucible, and John Patrick Shanley in Doubt, um, portray the tension between education and religion through the through the power dynamics, the institutionalization, and a third thing, which I can't think of right now, but let's assume there is a third thing that I can think of, right? Um, right? Okay. Now, I know like this is all in the center. Why is it like that? Anyway, so that's like my thesis statement. That could be my thesis statement. But that's basically it. And then so each of my paragraphs would then be body one is talking about power dynamics. So here in terms of um, doubt, I would talk about character foils in again, you need to know the context of these for in order to be able to see, but like I would talk about character foils in Sister Aloysius and Father I've forgotten his name. Father Flynn. And in the context of the Crucible, I would talk about the representation of mass hysteria through uh, what's her name, Abigail, and associated characters. Now, this is a very basic um, like outline, right? But this is obviously a type of um, theme-based essay because here I'm focusing. So my body paragraph is talking about power dynamics as a sub-theme, and then I'm talking about the two um, works and the two conventions they're doing it through. Okay, hopefully this helps a little bit. I'm going to look at the questions because I feel like I got lots of things before and I just wasn't reading the chat. Okay, why have I written power dynamics? That was one of the sub themes basically I was thinking about. Are questions sometimes repeated in your opinion, like the idea of being in doubt or being an alien to society? So I think at least one of the questions out of the four will be something around like like a wider theme, like so like a not a real world theme, but like a literature theme, and one would be around a um what's it called? A convention of some kind, so setting, narrative, etc. Um, in your intro, is the extent to which we should introduce the works. Do I bother with saying Woman is an autobiographical fiction novel written by novel? I think yeah, I think as long as it remains to like that one sentence, you're fine. Like it shouldn't be too long. Like I would just do like something like just something basic. And you don't want to give too much context about the author because that's not nearly as valuable as the context of the work because you want to center the work, if that makes sense. Um, how do you balance the length between your body paragraphs for the first and second text? Like you should have a comparative part for each second body paragraph. Should you like write less for the textual analysis so you can do the comparative and have everything be equal length or how else? So the way I would usually say is like your okay, now this again is as per like old criteria. How you should do it for this criteria, I can't say because I don't know how they're gonna grade this criteria. But like, so when I was writing my essays, our teacher usually used to just say it would be 20% comparative and 80% contrasting. And so you are like so you are doing a lot of like 20% of it is like, yeah, it talks about the theme, similarly, blah, blah, blah. It does this. And then the rest of the 80 was contrasting. In terms of paragraph structure, obviously not in terms of like how you're analyzing, because you can still bring in similarities while you're doing the contrasting bit, but you can like most of it used to be comparison. And now obviously I'm not saying this is the way you should do it. This is just the way that like my teacher always said. Um I think if you do 50-50, that works too. No, this is The Crucible and Doubt. It's literally not Macbeth. It's not Shakespeare. I did not do Macbeth. Sorry. You don't no, you don't get a prescribed body of work for paper two. You just get to pick what you want to use. No one like everyone's taught different ones. I never did Macbeth. The only Shakespeare play I've done is like The Merchant of Venice. Okay, but Liana, does this help in terms of like planning? Does that like does that make sense? Sorry, I know I fully like got devolved by people like going insane. I was also going insane, obviously. Um, I say people. Uh, yeah. If there's other questions, I'm literally yeah, that's what I'm here for. But I hope like the structure thing makes sense to people. Like I hope this bit makes sense now. Hopefully. I'll be sending all the notes I've taken today and all the stuff there is in the chat like later on, along with the recording and everything. Don't worry. It will get that. But yeah, if there's questions, please ask. Samples for paper two are in the chat already. Like nothing I'm gonna give you is gonna be new. It's like my examples are there already. Hold on, let me pull up the link. Hold on. There you go. It's in pins, but I've just linked it as well in chat, so you should be able to follow that into the chat. But there, I'm pretty sure there's a bunch also in the normal like English LangLit channel. If you go in there and you can probably find some. These are just mine. If you can't see it, then please go to revision join get React to get the English LangLit role. So go to that. What does Emperor? I don't know. I refuse. I don't ask questions. Did I get a se Not at the end, no. But I was a seven the entirety of my 2 years, and then I ended with a six. But what can you do? IB is mean. Yeah, not my best exam season, let's just say. So that I will always say that as like that was my like issue. It was not a great exam season overall, let alone just for English. What would you say is the easiest body of work to write on for paper one? Is this for literature? No, not even literature, because both paper ones are unseen texts. It's just whatever you get, you get. I don't know what that question means. Whatever Dennis says now is gonna be an interesting take. I can already tell. It's gonna be one of the takes of all time. Nice. I actually, honestly, I don't disagree. I don't, honestly, that's a good take. I don't disagree. Whether or not you can control that, I don't know. But fair. Okay, I'm gonna. Is it enough if I get a five? Yeah. I mean, if you're happy with a five, it doesn't matter, does it? Like, it doesn't. Yeah. As long as you're good with getting a five, man, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I hate when like schools do that. Like, it's just stupid. How many pages of the IB booklet does your paper one and paper two take up back then? I don't remember. I think like six, seven, eight. I just realized what I said. Please do not. No, guys, children, 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 children. No, 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 no. I just got caught out, fully caught out. Fucking, anyway, yeah, like five, probably. Okay, stop spamming it. I'm still lost with the theme-based essay. In it, do we not talk about? No, no, no. So, okay, you still talk about all of those, right? You still talk about the techniques. It's just the theme-based essay, it just changes what your like comparison point is. So you're finding the similarities in the theme, not on the um in the conventions. You use the conventions to show how they do it differently. Does that make sense? Like it's not your thesis can be something like what I just said. Hold on. Where is my Yep, sample answers are in. You have to go to the English LangLit channel and it's in pins. You know what? Hold on. I'm just gonna, let me just. There we go. That's a sample intro of an essay that I did back in DP 1 or 2, I don't remember. Um, there you go. I'm not gonna read it out because I don't like reading just a block of text out, so you can read it out, but you know. No, generally, why are these different? What is happening? Why is one of those oh, is it not loading? It's fine. I can hold on. It should hopefully load, but just give it a second. Oh, I'm pretty sure it goes downhill from here. I don't even remember. Hold on. Bro, this is it. I've literally sent this in chat before. You don't need to like screenshot it. I promise. There's like, I'm not gatekeeping this. I'm not like, this is my essay. It's okay. In order to access it, if you go to revision join and get react to the react to English Lang and Lit, then you can see the chat and then you can access all the samples. This is just one of them. Have you got the same handwriting? That's great. I actually, I yeah, I did. I got dissed by on my handwriting by my like sister, like constantly throughout like DP, and so I appreciate all these comments. How many pages did you write on average per paper? I don't know. Let's see. 4.5 sides is this essay, which got a 26. So, make of that what you will. I like how there's this entire section that I was saying something, and then I was just like, what am I saying? And then just completely got rid of it. Um, yeah. It goes through things. Like by this point it's not nearly as pristine as as it was in the intro. The intro looks beautiful. It goes downhill. But yeah. Okay. So in this case, my um thesis, which is not a single thesis, it's more like a double thesis, I think. But like, so I say Shanley and Miller's characterization and narrative structure reflect the changing beliefs in their societies and present concepts of good and bad as matters of individual perception. That's my thesis statement. There. I was HO. Question, I might have an answer. Okay, my mock I did a question. How is conflict within families or intimate relationships used to explore larger society, social or political issues in at least two works you have studied? Could I break this question down? I can try. Yes. If I write a really good paper, can I sign it off at the end? No, because they're meant to be anonymous, my friend. Unfortunately, I don't think that works if you sign off with your name at the end. I was higher level. I was higher level. I said that already, but I was higher level. Okay. You have studied. Should you eat the Dubai chocolate you were given? Yes, I agree. I think you should. Also send me some, like right now. Thanks. No, but it doesn't matter if you're HL or SL in paper two. Like you can, whichever one you are. And also the quantity of which you write, it doesn't matter either. That was just a full, like, me going insane essay. Like I've got, what was my, yeah, I think on average I used to get like a 21 out of 30. This is just like a really good day, apparently. Do examiners grade more leniently with SL papers? No, they don't know that your papers are SL. They don't know if your paper is an SL paper and an HL paper. They just know that it's a paper. Like even for paper one, because your essays, like they technically know that you're an SL because they're not grading two essays, but they don't know. No, it like it to you, you can see the cover shape, but when they get it scanned, and so they don't see any of your information. They just see the essay. So with paper two, you're being graded like it's you and literature students all being graded together technically. Like it's a mixed bag. So like any teacher will get like lit essays and non like Lang and lit essays together, as far as I know. At least for paper two, yeah. Not for paper one, obviously, because paper one is different. You haven't read your works till last since last year, are you cooked? Well, read it now. You've got like 3 days. Yes, obviously, of course. If you've got any questions, feel free to like ping me after this. Okay, actually, when are your like paper ones, paper twos for English, guys? Like what day? What date? 7th and 8th. Okay. So if I were to do like a Q&A session on I'm trying to think. Do you guys have exams on the Wednesday? So if I were to do a session on the 6th of May at this time, at roughly this time, just as a Q&A, would that help people? Or I can do like later, probably, or earlier. I don't know what's easier for people. Tell me in terms of, yeah, hours. Okay. So if I did, okay, let me pull up Hammer Time because this is how I need to do things. Because obviously I can't expose my time zone, but I can't expose your time zone. Exclusively. Exam mode is very annoying. Do you think studying for English from Tuesday to Wednesday night is good enough? Yeah, you should be fine. Hold on, let me see if I can. Okay. So if I did a random Q&A session at probably later actually. 7 at this time. Does that work for people? Or is that too late or too early? Should I go later or earlier? What if I did an hour earlier? Obla, I don't know how to help you, my friend. You've got because I feel like you're in the complete opposite time zone as me, so I feel like that's really hard to help you. Okay, okay, okay. Let's not spam. Let's not spam. I'm asking everyone in chat. What if I did like, hold on. You know what? I'll just put this in the English LangLit channel. I don't need to do this here. I will put it in the English LangLit channel because I've also got exams like a few. Okay, let's not expose our time zones. Please delete that. Please delete that right now. Please delete that right now. Please delete that right now. Please, 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 right now. You're gonna get nuked by mods. You don't want to get nuked by mods. Okay. So I will put another ping out in English LangLit later. Um, and yeah. Okay, if you've got any other questions, we'll stick around for another like 10-15 minutes. But if not,